We are in game number 3. If you're just tuning in, this is the OlimoLeague, and it is the grand finals of week number 3. Spawning here in the bottom right corner of the map, just turning the series around, tying it up 1-1. It is the blue Protoss player from Axiom Esports. Give it up for Crank.
The top left as the red Protoss. His MVP is Yonghwa.
I'm still sitting here frustrated because I've seen so many PvPs. And it's not that it's rare, I've never really seen not Blink beat out Blink. It's I'm so impressed by that game out of Crank, really.
Yesterday, or whenever we cast, we cast like every day.
I know. You know what, hang on, if we could just take a moment here. I'm gonna take a moment to vent. I never do this really, and I'm not like mad or salty or jelly, but it's like I see everyone who's like, oh, Rotterdam and Nathaniel's cast for 9 days in a row. What dedication? I'm like, motherfuckers, we cast like 3 months in a row. Sorry, anyways, continue.
Yeah, okay, so whenever it was, I can't remember what match it was, but I just remember seeing someone get absolutely like slammed hard because one person went for Blink Stalkers. Remember, it was actually like a proxy or a hidden Blink Stalker too, from like Catalina or something. And we were like, well, maybe the Blink won't finish, so like this 3-gate might be able to win. And then like it just was like, no, the guy that got Blink Stalkers just totally shut down the 3-gate. So that's what I was kind of like afraid would happen in that game, but I guess Crank attacked like too fast, and Yonghwa maybe didn't take it seriously. I don't know.
Well, that's the other thing too. Let's go back to the 3-gate for a moment, because there's a very real potential. We see that several times in this series. 2 gates is kind of what we're seeing a lot of, like, you know, if you want to play really greedy, you go for 1, then advance your tech forward. I mean, I just finished talking about how you don't lag so much anymore, buddy.
You just complimented him.
I just complimented him, yeah. But anyways, the thing is, like, you build 1 gateway to start, obviously. You're never going to go too early on unless you see a proxy or something like that. Beyond that, if you play greedy, and this is like air quotes for greedy, then, you know, you have 3 and 3 on gas. You try and take that Stargate or Twilight Council as soon as humanly possible. But if you don't see that tech come down really fast, and the probe scouts your base and he doesn't see you building anything, chances are there's going to be a couple more gateways to come behind it. And 3 gateways is not always an all-in, but can be if you dedicate to it really hardcore, and that's how we see a lot of these PvPs end before the late game. I do kind of hope that between these two we at least get 1 game in the Best of 5 where we do see the late game. Colossus, Tempest, Archons, Immortals, whatever the case may be.
Yonghwa this time going for that 20 gateway. Switching up the builds maybe. It'd be funny if Yonghwa out of the 3-gate and Crank was the one who got the Blink Stalkers. That happens so often because that is probably the 2 most popular openers. You know, the types that can get you into a long game. Okay, they're not really greedy, but they're not really all in it either. These are 3-gate, and then also the 3-gate Blink Stalkers.
This probe not
hey,
vision.
Proby.
Oh my god, the Mothership Core, you... Blizzard, why you nerf vision on Mothership Core? Seriously, it like barely didn't see this probe.
Don't say that.
I don't know if he's gonna put a pylon down. I don't know if he'll put a pylon down here, but one of the big things is, well, I think he will. This would normally just be a secondary scout, but...
Yes! It's a 3-gate versus Blink Stalkers, just reverse the roles.
Yeah, well, Yonghwa's gonna have the pylon in the main, that's for sure. Oh, Crank. Crank. Come on, you gotta get down here, you gotta see this.
Crank. Well, the Mothership Core's coming back, so maybe...
Cranky come, please. He'll get a Stalker here, which is nice.
Oh, that was kind of a waste of a force field.
Well, it guarantees that the Stalker has to die in the base instead of runs away.
Well,
so I wouldn't
gonna die. I mean, look at it. It's trying to get scouting.
Right, but I mean,
now he steals the probe.
I'm just saying, I don't think it was a waste of a force field at all.
But he's gonna need it for the 3-gate. I mean, maybe he's gonna have another one. Okay, probably by the time the 3-gate hits. And Yonghwa actually not going for just the 3-gate. Does put on his own Twilight Council.
So even though the probe got scouted, I don't know that Crank necessarily saw it. For Yonghwa, he kind of panicked to start putting probes down, which isn't or pylons down rather. It's not a terrible idea, but what is this? Crank. Crank, please. What are you proxying from halfway across the map?
Just to make sure it doesn't get scouted.
I guess, I mean, the idea is that it's behind enemy lines, possibly, potentially. Nice here, pick up on the Zealot, probably, potentially, yep.
Also attack.
Is out of force fields, though. But should have enough to fight for the time being. Both players are going to go for Blink.
You would have 1 more if you didn't use it.
It's so... It's so funny too, by the way. What other tech? Like, you know, we talk about Protoss a lot, and we talk about the negative sides of it. But like, here's one of the funny sides of it. There's no other tech in StarCraft 2 that falls off as quickly as Blink Stalkers do in a matchup. Blink Stalkers are like the worst thing to have in your arsenal come the late game with the Colossus and such. But oh, Yonghwa, you dirty man. He's also got a funny.
Oop, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say he put a proxy pawn down. I was gonna ignore it because it's just positional, but that Dark Shrine is huge.
Oh yeah. Crank got a scout into Yonghwa's base with that proxy pylon probe. He saw a Twilight Council. His opponent could just be going Blink too, and that's probably what he assumes.
But he goes through the robo to be safe, and I like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you almost certainly have to. I mean, you can go into Archons, but you want Observers. They're pretty good, and maybe Immortals too. Both good things.
I feel too, like, here's the problem though, like even though you'll have an observer out, and even though your army will be good, unless Crank is studying it as natural, there's a pretty good chance he actually misses this, which is kind of scary to consider. There's also the potential of a Warp Prism coming out of Yonghwa.
The question right now is, what can he do if it fails? You know, like the Dark Shrine gets 15 pro kills.
Upset.
Oh my god, it's like amazing. But sometimes we see players dedicate into this, and we're thinking like, oh, it's so much, it's so far, it's like you're missing out on so much, and you just didn't do any probe kills. And what actually happens is they get a faster Nexus, and they're able to keep it.
Well,
you know, stuff like that.
That in DT's Trinity Archons is never a bad idea either. I mean, crushing a force field, making sure you're not soft contained on a ramp or anything like that. DT will be revealed right away. Crank blinks on top of it. He is so fast to respond to that.
Yeah, and Yonghwa does that on the Nexus. So now the question is, does Yonghwa get a faster Nexus because Crank is a little paranoid, doesn't want to push out? Or does Crank realize this is a possibility and pushes out immediately and tries to cancel Yonghwa's? And I guess it's the latter.
Yeah.
Yonghwa, can you defend? You're going to have an Immortal out, but is that enough?
Oh, he might get the Observer Sniper on there while he goes. No, he's going to keep the Observer at home for safety. Oh no, it's just slow. That's the Sentry turning around for safety. Recognizing that these Stalkers down the map, though, he might just warp in another DT and have at her.
Maybe. The Nexus isn't done, so a cannon won't be available. I think Crank might be able to do it. He's gonna get another ship.
No, not quite. Man, Blink fights are funny. And by funny, I mean so frustrating. I like the Immortal coming out, though. Without the projectile, it's going to be a little bit better to have in the arsenal. Of course, the idea is to snipe off one unit and blink your whole army away. Couldn't quite get the Stalker because Yonghwa also blinked back himself. But Crank doesn't really lose anything for this attack, just a little bit of help from the Stalkers. And he got 3 probe kills, so not entirely worthless.
Yeah, he didn't have to dedicate. You know, maybe he could have blinked on top of the Immortal and gotten a good kill and taken it from there, but that's a big maybe. One miscontrol and suddenly
if he finds this Dark Shrine, that's really gonna suck. Because, you know, one defensive Dark Templar, one offensive Dark Templar, these can always be like game-changing units. Sadly, this will go down, and this is a nice find for Crank. Just a very unfortunate thing here for Yonghwa.
Yeah. But Yonghwa's still going into the long game, all right? So he dedicated to a 3-gate attack that didn't actually do anything. He dedicated to a Dark Shrine, which didn't do anything. But he's still in this game. He's down on probes because of the 3 that he lost in that single attack, and he's down in supply in general because, well,
he's also
something.
He's in the hole big time with the resources lost too. Let's not forget about that. I mean, it's for Crank. It looks like a comfortable spot, and it certainly is. But a lot of the times, if this gets past the point where it's just Immortals and Stalkers and actually gets to the Colossus, the AOE can help make up the difference. Like taking one good pot shot off, getting a concave over your opponent with a 3 Colossus. I mean, Crank might be a little bit ahead, and I want to stress a little bit ahead, but that can easily go away very quickly.
Yeah, agreed. We'll have to see if he's going to stick to Immortals, maybe go on the Archons, or if he's actually going to get the 2 Colossus. Of course, this is the map where we saw him get those Glistening Archons and bust through a very fortified Protoss. Very cool-like.
Looks like this is a bit awkward.
Wait. Oh, there we go.
He's proxying a pylon next to Crank's proxy pylon. So cancels it and moves it out a little bit. I don't know if Crank realized that was happening or not. Of course, he's busy dancing around at home. I like the charge loss coming out of Crank, though. Charge is such a good upgrade. I mean, Zealots in general are just some of the strongest units in PvP, or rather, I should rephrase this, can be some of the strongest units in PvP, but without charge, they're absolute garbage. Wolfboy's also thinking the same lines. Twilight Council, Templar Archives, so possible Templar, most likely Archons. Oh, who was it that I cast? I don't know if you were with me. Seed. Seed was really insisting on going like this Immortal Archon Stalker sort of style and not really moving towards Colossus. And versus Sun, I think it was, just did not work. Colossus were winning like every single time.
That can happen for sure. But both players going for the same composition happens sometimes. More often we see someone go for Colossus and the other person go for Tempest, or one person goes for Colossus and the other person goes for this charge on Archon. But both going for the same. I think this is actually the situation that Crank could abuse, that hallucination. We're always like, you know, we might be like biased and like, you know, overselling it because we really want to see it again. But it was really super cool. And it did work out very effectively. It's not like a one-trick pony necessarily. It is, you know, has to be in a certain situation, but it's going to work.
I want to see Storm work. I think it'll be cool. I mean, not to root against Crank here, but...
Storm? Sometimes it like adds that like, you know, so much damage.
Well, I'm thinking he's just gonna go for Storm drops more than like an
oh yeah, well that's always cool. Yes.
The other thing Storm works really well against, for those who don't know, because it's a spell effect, it takes out the Heart and Shield of the Immortals very, very quickly. So for someone like Crank who is going so Immortal heavy, a good Storm or two will quickly strip these shields away.
Good point. Upgrades are going to be in favor of Crank, not surprising. Those two. The third Nexus, very far ahead, about halfway done.
Such far, very PvP.
Such action.
Yeah. Such axiom.
Yeah.
Storm drops. But Storm drops, as I look at the stupid thing, I was looking away for just 1 second. Did kill 14 probes. This is, oh my god, I'm the worst observer. Just kind of the bottom line there.
Like super quickly. I thought.
Yeah, I looked away for like 1 second. I was like waiting for the comedy train, the War Prism away for like a second, so I thought I could make like a bad joke. It was, that's my bad. That's gonna force Crank to push here, which is gonna hurt a little bit, because this is not an optimal army composition coming up against somebody who has that defender's advantage. He does have a couple pylons set down though, so be able to warp it offensively. But this is at the very least going to be no Robotech for either player. Well, I mean, there's some models, so maybe not no Robotech, but. We'll see how effective these storms will be. That was a big investment for him to make, and they have got to do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Crank. The Crankers. So the Hallucinated Archons actually in the back are not a good idea. It's great in the front lines, but... Crank, why you do this? Storms go down. He's stuck in a couple time warps. I don't know how this is really going to go here, as he does have an army supply lead at the moment, but that could dissipate here very quickly. Warping Zealots directly on top of the Stalkers, though a great move as these charge forward are going to deal a ton of damage. Crank continue to push his advantage moving forward here. We still have a couple Hallucinated Archons in the mix. This one back here, like, oh, dude, seriously, come on. But as he moves forward in the army, the Immortals have dissipated for his opponent. Storm was not enough. GG is called, and Crank will take game number 3, now leading 2-1. All right, so that means we're going to have either